idea actually like fits well with like my design aesthetic because like I play more with like basic shapes and silhouettes. Sometimes like oval-linear like shapes. Things I like care about is like using like as much as possible like organic textiles. In design, like I don't usually use like leather and suede unless it's a necessary like design aspect. Like I try to be eco-conscious as much as possible and also sourcing like fabrics.
So for me, it's more on structural textures. I kind of do a wavy textural sort of shape. You have one pattern that have different sizes and you're gonna do it all over again because you want that texture and you want that structure for that design.
I'm going to be exploring my love for textile manipulation. I have a huge interest in like sculpture and like avant-garde design, so I want to also be able to explore that as well. So hoping to create something that's fairly unconventional and more like wearable art rather than a garment, so to say.
I can definitely tell like what quality fabric is versus from like a low quality fabric. So like I'm really excited to actually like work with like the Mandala textile because it's actually like really fine, but also like it has a good body to it, which is like exciting. Before I used more I would say printed, but like colored textiles, like printed textiles. So now like I'm working with this plain fabric, so it's actually a different feeling. Like it's a lot like, you know, like I'm playing with paper basically. So that also like inspired my my idea for the fair trade design.
And when I saw the mandala fabric, it's kind of like you feel in heaven because it's super soft and it gives you structure when you maybe add more interfacing.
Quality is when you're not cutting corners, and so much more can be accomplished when you're not cutting corners. And so even just like the fabric we've been working with is like a lot softer and lighter and has better drape to it, and just the way that it sits and like how it lays. But honestly, when you get a better quality piece of fabric, then it makes all the difference in just like how the design sort of communicates the vision behind it. So if I'm dyeing a fabric that isn't very good quality, then it's not going to hold the dye very well, or it's not going to sit well, or the colors aren't going to come out. So it won't be as vibrant or subtle as I want it to be. And if it's not draping properly, then it's not going to sit how it needs to, and the shape isn't going to be accomplished.
I realized since I'm making a shift dress, I was inspired by the Yves Saint Laurent's Mondrian dress, which it's literally just like a shift dress, off-white with black, yellow, blue, and red color.
It's mostly very minimal and very structural. It's kind of like architectural vibe, and it's actually for working or like a school uniform or work uniform. I would say it's a little bit similar, but this is more intricate because of the design that I'm making for this show.
My main source of inspiration was to look at like how things grow on things, and just like things like tumors and like bacteria and mold, and how it like kind of like blobs and bags on things and have these strange like sort of like unnatural shapes that I think are really amazing to explore. And like nature I really am inspired by, so like things that grow and the textures I see in nature, and things like moss really inspires me as well. So like that fuzzy texture. In my final collection, I focus a lot of like wispy shapes and like mesh and transparency and sculpture and like building up of shapes and that kind of thing. So this definitely continues from that in an interesting way. I honestly didn't actually think of that until now.
This design, I'm going to use like origami pleating. That's like labor intensive. And if people think that like they're buying a garment, like a ready-made garment like on the rack, and they're looking for like an interesting design detail and they're not willing to pay for the price, the cost of something should like equal the labor.
Fair trade is really important because every time, like, yeah, for example, that fabric, mandala fabric, came from India, and we know how they did it, and it takes a lot of time. It's not like a mass produce, right? So for this one, so this design or like the inspiration that I'm doing is more likely every time I have the pattern, I want to make sure that every piece is actually used.
And really the concept is just making sure that people are paid for the work that they do and like reflective of the situation that they're in, regardless of maybe like that means the country that they live in and the level of work that they do and the level of expertise that it takes and what they're doing exactly. And honestly, I just like have just seen for one example through fast fashion of how people aren't compensated for the work that they do, and it just doesn't make sense and it's just not acceptable. I feel like it's just totally unacceptable for that to be a thing.